How was the weekend?
Long. Long. Long.
Fortunate, you know, when we talked, I set a goal, not a resolution, but because it wasn't during New Year's. Like, I came to this premonition sometime in February. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be outside more this summer, and wasn't able to because it was constant rain on and off.
It's a beautiful late afternoon yesterday. We walked through
I'm going
Crawfish
to sleep.
Festival, which was downtown. It was packed, but it was after the rain, so there was a nice like crispiness to the air. It was before it got humid again. It's supposed to be 90 degrees today.
Oh yeah, it is.
It's gonna be so hot.
Yeah, it is.
But
Welcome
yesterday, for a brief moment, the weather was perfect. It was so nice.
Oh. Inside eating my cheesecake, watching a little basketball.
We also had some cheesecake last night.
It was delicious.
I love a cheesecake corner moment.
What was the song?
You know, I gotta be honest, no song. 'Cause I was driving down MLK and there were police cars in front of me and I was trying to navigate that situation.
What situation?
The Claiborne Temple burned to the ground overnight.
Yeah, I stepped off of the bus.
So I had no music.
I stepped off the bus. It's like, who in the hell is barbecuing at 7 in the morning on a Monday downtown? But shout out, and then realize, oh no, Claiborne is on fire. Yeah. Sad.
Yeah. The pictures are horrific. There's just walls left.
Yeah,
There's nothing
it's
inside.
just the four corners left.
There is absolutely nothing left inside.
Which is sad. Such a historic place, such an important place for our shared history.
I believe the I Am a Man signs were made in the basement of Claiborne Temple.
That's where they met. That's where they met to organize. Before social media, TikTok, Twitter, all of that.
You met at the church.
You met at the church to organize and figure out how you're going to combat systemic oppression. So we've been combating systemic oppression long before social media.
No.
Yeah, believe it or not. Yeah.
Can't be.
That's where the marches originated from, right? You would start at Claiborne, go up the street, come down Bill Street, hit the right onto Main Street, march all the way to City Hall.
What's up, everybody? It is a Monday, April 28th. It is going to be a good day. Jessica Benson with you from the Grind City Media Studios in Memphis, Tennessee. CJ Hurt behind the glass coming up on today's show. The Grizzlies season has come to an end, swept by the Oklahoma City Thunder in the first round of the Western Conference playoffs. Exit interviews were on Sunday before everybody got out of town. We will look into this team's offseason priorities, go over all of the hot topics that were discussed in those interviews. Gary Parrish will join us about 40 minutes in to continue the conversation on the Grizzlies season that was and what the future looks to be. We will also go around the rest of the NBA playoffs, which were awesome this weekend. NFL draft came to an end. We'll do some Hot Mess Express, prank calls, and Bill Belichick, and man versus gorilla. We'll get into it all on this Monday. You know what we say. We've come to the end of the road.
Sing another sad song about it.
We've come. That's the one that always...
Grizzlies fans know it's the team that gives you the edge. Big River Steel does too. And much like the Grizzlies have recruited legendary talent, we want you to be part of our team. Are you ready to be part of something legendary? Then visit www.bigriversteel.com. That's www.bigriversteel.com.
Good defense.
Durant attacking, spinning, hanging, and hitting.
Let's go. Radio. Welcome back to Sonic RNDIO. That spells radio with me, the CIO. This just in, the new Sonic $1.99 menu lets you build a crave-worthy meal for just $1.99 an item. Whether that's a creamy shake, crispy tots, or a quarter-pound double cheeseburger. This just out. Ostriches. They're mean, not very cute, and in my opinion, way too big for a bird. Don't miss the Sonic Fun 99 menu. 5 items, always $1.99. Live free, eat Sonic.
Tax not included. See menu for details.
The new issue of Slam, the cover dropped, and it is our friend Jaron Jackson Jr. on the cover.
And shout out to you, Lane.
Yeah.
You kept. Well, I mean, we knew about it, but you kept this a secret the whole time.
Yeah.
So shout out to you. For
I wrote this story.
together.
We did the photo shoot a couple weeks ago here on a Sunday afternoon in the practice court. The Sneak Fest show, live Tuesdays at 2 p.m. on Grind City Media on X, YouTube, and the official Grind City Media mobile app.
I see people who look like me and were born probably in the same decade as me, watching all of these young people jump into the transfer portal and saying, it's ridiculous. You got to stop thinking about this like it's a normal college experience. It is not. You know what the priority is? Maximize your earning potential for every year of eligibility you have left. That's what this is about now. These are jobs.
The Gary Parrish Show, live on weekdays at 10 a.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
Grizz Nation gets set for tip-off 1 hour before every Grizzlies home game with the warm-up show. Get the latest news, notes, and analysis live from courtside at FedEx Forum.
Who's going to be the tougher team that rebounds and prevents second-chance opportunities?
Join me, Lang Whitaker, along with Michael Wallace, Jessica Benson, and other personalities from Grind City Media, Memphis, and around the NBA. 1 hour before every home game, live at Grind City Media on X, YouTube, and the official Grind City Media mobile app.
Feels great to feel the sunshine. Gotta own the day like it's all mine. Just got paid in his own time. Been working hard, I've been on the grind. I deserve this feeling, having my way. I've been on this healing. This is my day. The sun's out, let's have a little fun now. I wanna let it all out. That's what's it all about. Cause I deserve this feeling, having my way. I deserve this healing. This is my day.
Grind City Media presents The Jessica Benson Show with CJ Hurt. Live from the Grind City Media studios on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
All right, happy Monday, everybody. I hope you had a good weekend. I won't call it a great weekend. We saw the Grizzlies season come to an end, or maybe some of you are happy that this season has finally winded into the end of the 2024-2025 Memphis Grizzlies season and into the 2025 Memphis Grizzlies off season. We had exit interviews yesterday. I attended them here at FedEx Forum. I will give you my thoughts on those. But in order to get to the exit interviews, the Grizzlies had to lose a game on Saturday, which they did. So you have to get out the broom as the Thunder sweep the Grizzlies 4-0. The Thunder celebrating on the court at FedEx Forum. The contingency of Oklahoma City fans in the building all came down, and I had to look over to my left as Lang and I did our final Grind City Media rewind of the year, and they were so happy, and I was so annoyed, and I really thought the Grizzlies were going to win that game. Like, when it comes down to how the season goes and how the offseason goes, the outcome of that game did not technically matter. Like, I am not going to sit here and say, oh, if the Grizzlies had won game 4 down 3-1 with Ja Morant hobbled as he was still on crutches yesterday and seems to still be dealing with some pretty significant discomfort from the injury. Doesn't need surgery, which is a good thing we found out. But I don't think the Grizzlies had a chance to come back in the series. But I had gotten to the point where I wouldn't have minded one more game on a Monday for a game 5. And so I went into the building on Saturday hoping for a Grizzlies win. And what I got was a hell of a fight. Like, they almost won that game. They almost messed around, and even they turned it over 22 times again, which feels like an appropriate way to end the season. How the season continued onward with a ton of turnovers for this team. The foul calls were insane. Like, I can't sit here and blame the refs, but I can sit here and say I survived watching a game where the Grizzlies were not allowed to play with a level of physicality that the Oklahoma City Thunder were. The crowd who was there got into it. They were passionate. I say who was there because there were a lot of empty seats in the building on Saturday, with some who had tuned out by the point that we got to Game 4. But you couldn't have asked for a better competitive effort from this team. Down jaw, Scottie Pippen Jr. was awesome. If there's one resounding takeaway from this series for me, it is that Scottie Pippen Jr. cemented himself as someone I want to see back with this team, from a scoring potential with him to what he brings on the defensive end. I think he was the best player of the series. That's probably the problem for the Grizzlies. Scottie Pippen Jr. was your best player of the series against the Oklahoma City Thunder, but he was really good. CJ, you were in the building on Saturday. How did it all come to a conclusion for you?
It was like you said, the crowd that was there the last minute and a half, 2 minutes of the game is like, oh, this is why you come to these things. It was raucous. It was rocking. Head is ringing from all the screaming and the shouting and the chanting in unison. It was a playoff basketball game in FedEx Forum, and don't take those for granted, people, because you don't get them every year, and you're one of 30 places or one of 28 places where this is even possible. So don't take it for granted. And I was glad to be there and to not take it for granted, and to go out there and see them compete with a level of physicality they haven't had all season. And I'm be honest, I don't think they played with that much physicality since Dillon left. And so that's 2 years ago, and that was it's since Dillon left, because Dillon was the hit of that physicality snake. They were grabbing, they were tugging, they were pulling, they were hitting. Jaren came down with a bow on Alex Caruso's face, which was like, good for you, Jaren. That's exactly what you're supposed to do when somebody's in your space. It wasn't hard enough for my liking, but it was there. Zach Edey was throwing dudes on the ground, not hard enough, but it was there.
7 blocks for Zach Edey.
7 blocks for Zach Edey. And what I think when we look back on it, and now that it's over, you say, that was a pretty good rookie year for Zach Edey. Now, what it means going forward, we can talk about later, but for the now, that was a pretty good rookie year. That's way better than rookie bigs are supposed to be, especially when you consider he's a rookie big on a playoff caliber team. So seeing them play with that type of physicality warmed my cold dead heart. That's all I've ever wanted them to do.
I knew you'd like it.
The issue, of course you knew.
I would have liked it even a little more. At some point, I just wanted somebody in there to set a hard screen on Alex Caruso.
Just run through them. Don't stop. Just run through them. Send a message. Run through the ball. Run through somebody's back.
We've seen so much physicality in these playoffs.
I
was
do something.
Craving it here.
And of course, the Grizzlies are going to get called for it because the Grizzlies don't do it well, and they don't do it well because they never play like that. That's the issue with it. I'm watching dudes crumble, get smacked around in Knicks Pistons, which is, oh my gosh, just. If it was a line, I'd snort it right now. It's incredible. Just pit it straight into my veins.
That series was made for CJ.
It was. But those are two teams with the history of being physical. They've done it everywhere Tibbs goes. That's what his team is known for. So they get more leeway. They can go out there and do that. When you decide you're going to play physical this one time after, 164 plus games of not doing it, it's very clearly you're clumsily doing this. Foul, 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 foul. So, but to see them go out there and compete and not lay down, I think there's something to be said for that. Now, they still lost. They still got swept.
Still lost.
I don't care.
Still got swept. Doesn't change anything.
I am of the mentality and the mindset that I don't want to hear a damn thing these dudes have to say anymore. Words don't matter.
Well, that's too damn bad because exit interviews are all about the words, CJ, and we now have a million words to evaluate as we head into the offseason.
No. Wait. Just before we get started with this off season.
This exercise?
Off season.
Okay.
The entire off season. Because exit interviews happen, dudes are going to talk because they have to. Summer league is going to happen, people are going to talk, right? Preseason is going to happen, folks are going to talk. Regular season is going to happen next year, 2025, 2026.
People are going to talk.
Talking season is done for them. Either they go out there and they do it or they don't. Until they do it, I don't give a damn what they have to say. If you're going to say something, you're a buffoon. You're outside of your mind. I don't want to hear that shit anymore. Go do it.
Well, let's be clear. talking can lead to action, and there are actions that can be taken this offseason. Like, there are three main components of this Grizzlies offseason, coming out of exit interviews, coming out of the 4-0 sweep by the Thunder, that I think will be the biggest talking points, but it is what is done that will ultimately matter going into next season. And one is the decision on a head coach. The second is deciding if this is a championship contending core. And the third is the roster construction from there. So either you don't think that they're a championship contending core and what the roster looks like, or the pieces that you ultimately are able to put around this group that you have now. Because the bottom line is you can't run it back, right? Like, you don't get swept by the Thunder. You're not sitting here thinking we're close. Zach Kleiman multiple times yesterday said the words, "We are not close." Like, that is a far difference from the sentiment of we believe that we are a team that is contending in the West and ultimately wants to contend for a championship. Big difference. Contend from a championship, and we're not close. And they're not close. There is a vast difference. And if there is anything that this series against the Thunder appropriately shined a light on, it is just that. Now, I do want to get to one thing that was said yesterday about the series against the Thunder, because it was the most viral moment, because anything John Morant says is going to be viral. All the people who keep bringing up the Fine in the West quote from 3 years ago, I think it's real lame-o behavior, but it's never going away.
How's that lame-o?
It was years ago.
He said it.
It was years ago.
And he hasn't learned to shut the hell up. He's still doing this. There's no maturity coming from this dude at all. At all.
Ow, you're
no
yelling
room.
so loud.
No growth. None.
You're hurting my ear.
None.
You're hurting my ear.
Fine in the West.
Okay. I just wanted to bring up the very real... there's going to be a lot of multiple things can be true within the conversation that we're about to have. CJ has his hands over his ears. But there is this notion of what the Grizzlies could have done if John Morant had not gotten undercut by Lou Dort when they are up 26 points. CJ, you can close your eyes and imagine a world. You can at least flirt with the imagination. You can at least go back to your Playhouse Disney days or your Nicktoons days and have some level of cartoonish imagination that if John Morant does not get hurt in that series, which we've now said year after year after year, if someone doesn't get hurt, perhaps there is a different situation that plays out. And maybe you don't give up a 26-point lead, and maybe you're able to find a way to win game 4, because there is a difference between losing by 51 on the road, losing by 19 on the road, and then being up 26 when John Morant goes down in the first half of the game. That's just a fact. So Ja was asked about it, and this was one of the, because anything he says is going to go viral.
Stop. You can't coddle him. It's
I'm not coddling him. I'm explaining the situation.
No. When you say anything he says is going to go viral,
it is.
That is coddling him.
But
that
he
is
knows
taking,
it.
That is
but he
taking
knows
the
it, and he's making the choice to say it anyway.
That is taking the responsibility off of him.
No, it's not.
Stop babying Ja.
I'm not babying him. I'm explaining the situation, CJ.
Anything he says is not going to go viral. When he says certain things, they go viral. Does Ja talk to the press often? He talks to the press sometimes after practices, correct? Do anything go? Does everything he say go viral after press conferences? No, they don't. It's just when he gets up there for no reason at all and starts thumping his chest like he's accomplished something in this league that matters of significance, other than having really cool shoes and being a player children like. When he's doing something other than that, that's when it goes viral.
All right, well, here's the clip of Ja talking about if he hadn't gotten hurt in the series against the Thunder. Take a listen.
I didn't like obviously 2 away games, for sure. I'm even scared to answer this question because, stuff I say normally go viral and they tend to stick with you for forever. But I had them figured out. And going out, game 3, not being able to play was frustrating because that win right there could have made this totally different. I felt like we'll be on our way to OKC, series tied 2-2 right now.
Thinks that series would have been tied 2-2 right now. And I want to be clear. I'm not trying to coddle. I'm trying to. That's a player who has confidence. I'm sorry, if you want your superstar point guard who is one of the faces of this team, who is the face of this team, and is one of the faces of this city, to sit there and say, you know what, if I'd still been playing, I don't think we had a chance to win that series. Like, that's the issue with player-media interactions, and it's not the issue, it's just the reality, is like things have to be said. It's a press conference. You know, and sometimes you give a bite, and I appreciate Ja for giving a bite, and I wanted to play it instead of just having people read it, because I do think the playing of it is an important component, because it shows his reaction and it shows him taking a beat and thinking, I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it, and that's staying true to himself. And you can be mad about it, that's fine, but I think it's confidence, and I think it shows that Ja is being himself. He also had a really I found it interesting. Someone asked him about his quote from the beginning of the season, a happy Ja is a scary Ja, and asked if he's happy right now. And his commentary on that was, you know, obviously like losing doesn't make you happy. Things that transpired this season doesn't make you happy. But he has a gratitude for being able to be in a position to play the game that he loves. It was nice to hear. I know you don't want to hear complexities of a person right now. You want to hear a team that changes, and it's unacceptable to go 0-4 against the Thunder in this series, and your season ends in the first round of the Western Conference playoffs, which is so very far from where it was supposed to go. I am not denying that. I am not arguing with that. Like, that is a fact as well. Like, these people are human beings. Like, it's not like they're sitting here, they wanted to lose. It's not like they're sitting here like they didn't try. There was a level of trying, and he got hurt, and that is a fact of the matter. And I watched that series, and I do think you can make the argument that Thunder defense is so good. Of course they find a way to push back. Of course they find a way to make their adjustments, and then how do the Grizzlies counter adjust from there? Anyway, that series is over. So we wash our hands of that. You have to look forward, because when a season starts with championship aspirations and also, ends where it's at.
Did the season start?
Yeah, I think it did.
It did.
They're all healthy. You have your core back. There's no suspension. You're coming off last year. Marcus Smart is back in the equation. Like, going into this season, I thought there was a very realistic outlook of this team being a contender in the Western Conference. And that fell apart. Like, and that illuminates a team that is at a crossroads. Like, that is the bottom line coming out of this year. This team is at a crossroads, and it becomes even clearer when you recognize the fact that the Grizzlies have only one playoff series win over the course of the time that they have had John Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Desmond Bane all playing together. And Memphis was seen as a team with one of the most exciting young futures in the league just 3 years ago, and they are now being laughed out of the playoffs. The number of people I saw say, oh, thank God that series over. Now we don't even have to pretend to pay attention to it. Let's move on to the big boy playoffs. Let's move on to these other series that are far more entertaining to watch. They are the first team to get eliminated. That's how it is. And so now where do you go from here? That is what we'll get into when we look at the things that were said yesterday at exit interviews and those three primary questions for the team going into the season. The coach, the future of the core three, and the roster construction around them. We'll get into that when we come back.
Touched on this earlier, the panel here, about, you know, what really has been the mainstay of the Grizzlies, and that's Jaren Jackson Jr. Trip has just been awesome.
He's posting guys up. He's stronger than he's ever been. He's physical, and he's scoring all type of ways.
Hey, Grizzlies fans, be sure to tune in to GrizzBeat, where the panel and I break down all things Grizzlies and take a look at the rest of the NBA as well. The show is live every Wednesday, 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
Let's face it, there's a lot of trash talk in basketball, but the great teams let their performance do the talking. Like Ford F-150 with Pro Power on board, a class-exclusive industry-first feature that turns your truck into a mobile generator and leaves the competition speechless. Ford F-150, official truck of the Grizzlies. Greatness starts here at your Mid-South Ford dealer. Class is full-size pickups under 8,500 pounds, GVWR.
Kroger shoppers and Grizz fans, one exclusive last-minute discounted ticket deals texted straight to you during the Grizzlies 2024-2025 season. Sign up with the new Kroger Buzzer Beater deal. Fans can sign up by texting Grizz to 636-479 or visit your local Kroger store in the Delta Division and scan the QR code. By signing up, you agree to receive recurring automated promotional and personalized marketing text messages from the Memphis Grizzlies. Consent is not a condition of any purchase. Message frequency varies. Message and data rates may apply.
Marcus Thornton could get buckets.
Don't do that.
You don't say? He had a lot of 30 balls in the NBA.
On who?
We better not see Marcus Thornton crosses over Tony Allen.
Yeah,
don't let us find that.
You forgot we got the internet, bro.
You said you might have done that? Hey, you always forget the internet exists.
The Chris Vernon Show, live on weekdays at noon on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
All you American wrestling fans out there, watching this international road to WrestleMania should be a wake-up call. Turn up at these shows. Stop being so spoiled, because Cody Rhodes, Cody Rhodes, Cody Rhodes,
I love it.
Cody Rhodes.
Let's go, Cena. Cena sucks.
Yeah.
I'm wabbing my finger because you're telling those people that they need to do better.
Yeah.
Tune in to Grind City Wrestling weekly on the Grind City Media app and on the Grind City Media YouTube channel.
Debo traded from San Francisco to the Commanders for a 5th round pick. There's no other sport where you would get a player of his ilk for a 5th round pick.
Over under total yards for Debo. If they set it at 1,000, you think he hits that over?
Total yards?
Total yards from scrimmage, total yards.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The Odds Couple, live at 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
We touched on this earlier, the panel here, about what really has been the mainstay of the Grizzlies, and that's Jaren Jackson Jr. Trip has just been awesome.
He's posting guys up. He's stronger than he's ever been. He's physical, and he's scoring all type of ways.
Hey, Grizzlies fans, be sure to tune in to Grizzbeat, where the panel and I break down all things Grizzlies and take a look at the rest of the NBA as well. The show is live every Wednesday, 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back. Exit interviews were yesterday for the Memphis Grizzlies, less than 24 hours after their Game 4 loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder. 11 a.m. sharp, Zach Kleiman addressed the media, and he sat down and gave a brief prepared statement before answering questions, but started by saying, disappointing season, a lot to sort through, 48 wins, good for an 8 seed, but who cares? It's not good enough. A lot to unpack. Glad to start wherever you guys want. CJ, can you guess where he started? What the first question to Zach Kleiman was about?
Oh, and I just saw. Oh, it was about the core three.
No, that was the second question.
Was that the second one? Okay, what was
first question was about, is Tuomas Iisalo going to be the head coach?
Okay.
And I think that's a fair question. And it was a question that Tuomas Iisalo himself, I think he was taken by surprise when he was asked it after the game for loss to the Thunder. And Zach Kleiman expressed that they have not made any decision on the coaching front. Going to digest everything coming out of the season. Will share when he decides. He said, I've been 100% focused with the rest of the group on making the most of what turned into a challenging end of the season on multiple fronts. I'm going to digest everything. He said, digest everything twice. And as soon as I've decided on any aspect of what comes next, I will share that news. Now, Tuomas, Coach Iisalo, spoke after Zach Kleiman, and it actually reminded me just how difficult of a situation he was thrown into. He was not exactly set up to thrive. That man had 15 games and 2 practices. 15 games and 2 practices since taking over for Taylor Jenkins after he and the Grizzlies parted ways. I'll say it one more time. 15 games and 2 practices. That is an absurd opportunity and doesn't provide for a whole lot of overhaul. You're kind of just managing with what you've got, right? And there was a lot of, we said baptism by fire multiple times, and that's the truth. Even though he has the experience over in Europe, having the chance to coach in the NBA postseason, it's just a different beast. You look around the league, even a situation like what JJ Redick faced with the Lakers yesterday. That's a first-year head coach, and you see how not having experience on that front can affect certain things that happen. Now, on the flip side, you see, I'll say, I think Nikola Jokic is basically coaching the Denver Nuggets right now, and you've seen multiple parts where it seems like he is the voice leading that group. But they have an interim head coach too. And for Coach Iisalo, I think there are legitimate gripes to hold on to from the playoff series, from the postseason in general, going all the way back to the end of game play call where the Grizzlies don't get it in and get called for a 5-second violation against the Warriors. The fact that he did not use a challenge in Game 4 on Saturday. I mean, the arena was begging this man, pleading with this man. The number of fingers in the air, swirling like they really cared. And he never used a challenge. There were the people around you, because you were sitting in the stands.
Oh, yeah, they were adamant.
They were irate.
They were
right?
adamant.
The people behind me were screaming. The people in front of me were screaming.
Did he challenge anything?
No.
Yeah, you just throw one out there. I don't think.
Well, and there were a couple late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, in the fourth quarter,
genuine opportunities.
You held on to them in the fourth quarter, challenge it and see what happens.
The
see if you don't
Scotty
get
offensive
lucky.
foul. Where like Lou Dort was literally on his hip, and I think that one would have gotten overturned. And it was a 5-point game at that point, and then it flipped into a 12-point game. Where the Thunder scored 7 straight, capped off by another SGA 3. And then the other one was, what was the one where SGA pushed off Scotty? Like, it would have been clear that SGA pushed off first, and I guess you could argue like SGA doesn't get called for that often, but I do think if they'd gone back and reviewed it, and those were just at critical moments, and you're just holding them on for what?
Just use them.
There were like 7 possible ones, but I would say 3 obvious ones.
I'm not sure if he would have won any of the challenges. You know, watching on the Jumbotron is, oh yeah, that's a foul, or oh yeah, that's not going to go the Grizzlies' way. But hell, in the fourth quarter, you held on to him. To him. Just got to throw one out there and see if you don't get lucky on it.
Yeah. And that's partially Coach Iisalo. It's partially the assistant coaches on the bench. Like that's a working in tandem coaching decision that happens, and you have to gain a trust there. And there just has to be a quicker movement on that. Some of the rotation choices down there, like why Scottie Pippen Jr. wasn't on the court at the end of Game 3, why Jaren and Dez were both out of the game in the fourth quarter, and I know they were both in foul trouble and they were both tired, but like it's a do or die. Your season's either going to end. It's one of those things where you just lay everything out on the line. That said, and I know some fans will feel some kind of way, you did get as close to an official endorsement as I think you're going to get when it comes to the comments from Ja and Dez and Jaren Jackson Jr. All 3 of those guys talked very positively about Coach Iisalo yesterday.
One of the things that I took away from exit interviews yesterday was Kleiman saying, hey, we've got to be uncomfortable. We got to have uncomfortable conversations and open-mindedness. If you're going to embrace that, it don't matter what those 3 think anymore. Right? It just can't. It just can't, because doing what those 3 think has gotten you to the point to where you're being passed by teams who you were ahead of a couple of years ago. You were ahead of the Thunder a couple of years ago. You were ahead of the Timberwolves a couple of years ago. And those teams are passing you now. So while it is great for everybody to be moving in the same direction, we got to be going in the right direction. So if everybody's moving in the same direction, going the wrong way, that's not good. And now if you guys think, you guys being the front office, if the front office thinks, hey, Coach Iisalo is the coach to get the job done, I'm fine. Go ahead and go do it. But what those 3 and what any player thinks, it simply can't matter. It simply can't hold the same weight if you're going to have a coach come in here and like get to the crux of the problem and say things to try and get dudes to be better that is going to rub them the wrong way. You know, if you're getting on to those 3 and they take it the wrong way and it gets on their nerves, they run to the front office, and now the coach's job is in jeopardy. How many times do we see that happen? Hell, I think that happened. I was on the outside looking in. Felt like that happened with Fizdale and Marc Gasol, right? Where, hey, coach is trying to get more out of said player and coach are butting heads. All right, who you going to move on from? We're going to move on from the coach. It can't, if what you're saying is true, and I will take Kleiman as a man of his word about being uncomfortable, you probably need to look elsewhere unless you think Iisalo is a guy, like I said, who can get in there and get into these dudes' asses and make them play differently and play harder than what they're accustomed to playing.
Yeah, and I think one of the uncomfortable conversations, though, is perhaps Tuomas Iisalo is a better coach than what he looked like in that stretch of 15 games. Like that's what has to be evaluated, and that's not a me decision, that's not a you decision. But I think the uncomfortable piece of it is that we often talk about winning a press conference with a coach, with a player, with anyone, and there wasn't a press conference to be won or lost necessarily, but there was a 15-game audition, and there are a lot of fans who, if that is the decision to make Tuomas Iisalo to remove the interim tag, because they spent money to go out and get him. He was successful with Paris basketball. He was one of the brightest minds over playing in Europe or coaching in Europe and brings him over here. So there's groundwork there. But they have to be prepared that fans are not going to be happy with it. And right now, there is some level of winning back the respect of fans. Like I was disappointed by the crowd on Saturday. That was my stance on it. I am like you. I think playoff basketball is a luxury that shouldn't be taken for granted. And I'm of course not talking about people who didn't have the means to go to a game or who are in a situation where finances are tight and they don't want to spend or don't have superfluous funds to be spending on a sporting event. But for fans who had a choice and like went to Wingfest instead or went to the Tigers spring game instead, or who are a genuine fan of the Grizzlies and like out of protest decided not to go. Like we talk about a team being a bunch of front runners sometimes. Like, is this a front runner team? That's a front runner move by a fan base. Like, it was 40% capacity at tip. But all that to say is if you are working in bringing fans back, that is not necessarily, but you can't make moves on the backs of the fans. Like, there has to be some level of that, of course, because this is a symbiotic relationship, but they're not going to not hire Tuomas Iisalo just because there is an outcry on social media for them not to.
You keep the main thing. Fans show up when you're winning.
Yeah.
So you go out there and you get the people who you think are going to help you win. All right. The hype era for this team is done. So if you think that Coach Iisalo is a coach that's going to help you win, the fans will come. The fans will be upset. Fans are going to be upset either way it goes, right? That's just the way this season it has ended. There's going to be infighting amongst the fans, which I love personally, sitting on the outside looking in. It's hilarious to me. But you're going to have that. So no matter what decision you make, you're going to make a vocal segment of the fan base. I'm not sure if Grizzlies have a quiet segment of the fan base, right? You're going to make them mad, and they're going to pop off on radio shows, and they're going to pop off on blogs. They're going to pop off on social media accounts. They're going to pop off. But if that decision leads to success, they'll come around. And we've seen this fan base, we've seen this city come around on several professional and collegiate sports decisions. We've seen that happen. So I don't think you can take or should take that into consideration at all. The only thing you care about from a fan standpoint is putting the best possible product on the court. Who's going to help you do that? What coach is going to help you do that? Who on this roster is going to help you do that? And if you think you can get better, damn it, go get better. The Celtics drafted Marcus Smart, loved by Celtics fan, loved in Boston. They looked around and said, I think we got a chance to get better here. Are we going to have to give up Marcus? We're going to have to give up Marcus. The fan base is not going to like that. And that fan base didn't like that. That fan base was upset. That fan base will tell you to this day how much it hurt them to lose Marcus Smart. Drew Holiday was a better option. He just was. That's not a slight on Marcus Smart's game. He's a defensive player of the year candidate, winner, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
But they looked around and said, hey, we got to get better. Where can we get better at? We can upgrade this position where we're already pretty good. All right, let's go out there and do it. And what did it get them? Got them a championship, right? It's got them a deep playoff run. And so if you've got a chance to get better, be it with a coach that's not Iisalo or a coach that is Iisalo, with players who are on this roster or players who are not on this roster, you go do that. Because no matter what, no matter how much the fan base will get upset and be hurt by people leaving, coaches, players leaving, that fan base will be energized and excited when the team is being successful. Nobody can be safe. That's the uncomfortable part of this. Mm-hmm. Nobody can be safe. Uncomfortableness has to be embraced because you went out there and got swept by the best team in the West. And that's the team you got to get through, and you're just not built to do it. Nobody can be safe.
And that brings us to question number 2, which was the question that Zach Kleiman was given about the core of Ja, Jaren, and Dez getting to where you can compete for a championship with those 3. And obviously one of the biggest tangential storylines for the Grizzlies when it comes to that is Jaren Jackson Jr. and his contract situation this offseason. It's still to be decided if he will be named All-NBA. If he is, he could sign a Supermax extension. The Grizzlies could also renegotiate his deal for next season and extend Jaren off of that. Obviously, they would have to clear some cap space via trades in that situation. He does have another year on his contract, so that's an option as well where this gets punted. But it does seem as if that is a high priority. Zach Kleiman was asked about this, and I do think it's important to hear from him. This is one of those things where you read it and things can get misconstrued. Now there is a giant tangent in the middle of him talking about the big 3 where it goes into some of the other roster pieces from this season, but we're going to go through it. It's 4 minutes long, but this is Zach Kleiman in his own words about the core 3 here in Memphis.
Zach, do you still believe the core of Ja, Jaren, and Dez is capable of getting you to the place where you can compete for championships?
I think there's so much good. I think you can see at the peak, times of what this group has done. It's right there, and there's so much to hold on to, and there's been so much growth. They're beginning to enter their prime. There's I think for each of them, and I'll talk about each of them here. I think there's significant steps that have been taken, in a really positive direction. I think for anyone, I don't think this is, news to anyone in this room, but I think anyone who's been watching closely has seen with Ja, an organization and a player that are growing closer, and we've tried to do, everything we can to put him in positions to be successful. He and I have worked through a bunch together and grown a bunch together, and I think we are in the healthiest place that we've been. I've seen a ton of growth from him, and I think you could see over this, whatever stretch over the last month, some really high level basketball. Unfortunate, getting knocked out, of game 3, about halfway through, and there's a lot of what ifs, right? There's always, what could this have been? What could that have been? Would the series be, 2-2 if we just had Ja? Yeah, maybe, but also it didn't happen, and that's not good enough. And I don't think it's acceptable from a, no, that there's a lot to work on there. I think we have to just more generally, this is not a commentary on those guys. I think more generally, we need to have a very open mind, from a team building standpoint of what we can do to put this group in the best position that we can, going forward. But it doesn't matter. It hasn't been good enough. We've made it to the second round once with a really talented but unintentionally young. I don't know who needs to hear this. We're not trying to make the team younger. We drafted Jalen Wells this year, and that was someone who I thought 100% was going to be in the G League and have a developmental year, this season. But I believe in competition. I believe in merit. And he beat out the vet and earned the starting job and ran with it, for the course of the season. Thank you. We've been adding veterans. Derek was a really positive presence. He retired, on the eve of the season, but he made really significant contributions to the locker room. Lamar Stevens made really significant contributions to the locker room now in both of his times, with this group. That's why we went out of our way and prioritized, bringing him, in. I digress, and let me talk about the rest of the core 3. There's plenty more to unpack there, but there's a lot of good with Ja. I think he's making meaningful strides in the right direction. Jaren had a fantastic season. Jaren continues to get better, every year. He's open, he's receptive to feedback. He's taken a step forward on so many fronts. I have no doubt that he's going to continue to. And Dez had a healthier season, a under the radar, fantastic season. I think there's so much good. I get the question. I respect it. Of course, there's more work to be done. There's a level that I think everyone has to embrace and be willing to get to reach the ultimate goal here. Certainly. And in many ways, I don't think we can look back at this series and this season and say, oh, we're close. No, we're not. We're not close. There's a lot of work to be done. I need to be, open-minded on multiple respects. It's been clear, for some time, and from a cultural standpoint, from the type of guys that we want here, next month this will be 10 years that I'll have lived in Memphis and have been, working for this team, and it's crystal clear to me that the type of players that happen to overlap also with what I think lead to success, from a team building standpoint, but the type of players that resonate, with this fan base that are impactful, to the city. It's the gritty guys. It's guys who have, that dog to their game. And for some time now, we have been emphasizing and are going to continue, to look for guys like that. And again, this is the work on the margins, like certainly not, we didn't do any of this with the expectation that a lot of these guys would come in and take on, some of the roles that they have this quickly. But when you look at the guys that we've actually brought in the organization over the last year or so, you look at Scottie Pippen, dog. Zach Edey, dog. Jalen Wells, dog. Cam Spencer's a effing grizzly bear. I mean, Cam Spencer's got that in spades, and I think he's got a bright future too. There's more work to be done, but
All right, so obviously that was long and hit a lot of different points that it was clear Zach Kleiman wanted to hit in that. CJ about put his head through a table when we started going through the dog list of this
For
team.
the second time, I forgot that was it. But the first time I heard that, I threw my phone.
Not surprising. When I heard it live, I was like, oh, this one's not going to play well with CJ. We have a lot to go through between the core three, but there was, I thought, an important understanding of potential. Like, it's not as if that question was met with, and that's because it's not an obvious answer. Like, everybody loves trade machine season, but trades are a hell of a lot more difficult to actually get done. And roster construction with what the Grizzlies have available right now, it is a tricky offseason to be navigated. But it is 8:43, so that means we have to bring Gary Parrish in, and we'll get his thoughts on the future of the core three. Zach Kleiman's comments from yesterday and the kind of players that perhaps could be best to come into Memphis and help make it a situation where next year we are not looking at another 8 seed and a first-round exit for a team that at one point had so much promise in the Western Conference in the last couple of years. We'll be back with GP after a quick break.
Creed. By overwhelming demand, the Summer of '99 tour returns. July 27th, FedEx Forum. With special guests 3 doors down. And Mammoth WVH. Tickets on sale now at livenation.com. Creed returns, the Summer of '99 tour.
Kroger shoppers and Grizz fans, one exclusive last-minute discounted ticket deals texted straight to you during the Grizzlies 2024-2025 season. Sign up with the new Kroger Buzzer Beater deal. Fans can sign up by texting Grizz to 636-479 or visit your local Kroger store in the Delta Division and scan the QR code. By signing up, you agree to receive recurring automated promotional and personalized marketing text messages from the Memphis Grizzlies. Consent is not a condition of any purchase. Message frequency varies. Message and data rates may apply.
Marcus Thornton could get buckets.
Don't do that.
You don't say? He had a lot of 30 balls in the NBA.
On who?
We better not see Marcus Thornton crosses over Tony Allen. Don't let us find that.
You forgot we got the internet, bro.
You said you might have done that? Hey, you always forget the internet exists.
The Chris Vernon Show, live on weekdays at noon on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
The new issue of Slam, the cover dropped, and it is our friend Jaren Jackson Jr. on the cover.
And shout out to you, Lane.
Yeah.
You kept, well, I mean, we knew about it, but you kept this a secret the whole time. So shout out to you for
I wrote
putting
this story.
together.
We did the photo shoot a couple weeks ago here on a Sunday afternoon in the practice court. The Sneak Fest show, live Tuesdays at 2 p.m. on Grind City Media on X, YouTube, and the official Grind City Media mobile app.
I see people who look like me and were born probably in the same decade as me, watching all of these young people jump into the transfer portal and saying, it's ridiculous. You got to stop thinking about this like it's a normal college experience. It is not. You know what the priority is? Maximize your earning potential for every year of eligibility you have left. That's what this is about now. These are jobs.
The Gary Parrish Show, live on weekdays at 10 a.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
Grizz Nation gets set for tip-off 1 hour before every Grizzlies home game with the warm-up show. Get the latest news, notes, and analysis live from courtside at FedEx Forum.
Who's going to be the tougher team that rebounds and prevents second chance opportunities?
Join me, Lang Whitaker, along with Michael Wallace, Jessica Benson, and other personalities from Grind City Media, Memphis, and around the NBA. 1 hour before every home game, live at Grind City Media on X, YouTube, and the official Grind City Media mobile app.
In honor of George Foreman, decided to do a pick six on 6 greatest heavyweight boxers of all time.
Number 4, my guy, Mike Tyson. There is no greater feat that I've had. Like if I had my Mount Rushmore of things that I've accomplished in my life, the very first time I beat Mike Tyson in Mike Tyson Punch-Out.
Get all of your HBCU sports and culture news by tuning in to HBCU Huddle with CJ Hurt and Mike Wallace. New episodes drop every Thursday on grindcitymedia.com, YouTube, and Spotify.
All right, welcome back. The off-season conversation continues for the Grizzlies, and Gary Parrish joins us now in studio, fresh off another weekend of watching youth baseball in Oxford, Mississippi.
Tupelo this time.
Tupelo, Mississippi, excuse me.
Yeah.
Wrong Mississippi.
You put a youth baseball complex in the state of Mississippi.
You've been there.
I've probably sat
there. You frequent it.
I probably sat there all day long and debated with myself, is it time to go back to the concession stand or not? That's what you do all day long. You would just wonder if it's time to go back to the concession stand or not.
One of life's biggest questions. We've entered the off-season of infinite questions, it feels, for this Memphis Grizzlies team. And yet I have one question I want to open with that I think was the most important question of the weekend in the world.
Sure.
Who would win in a fight? 100 men or a gorilla?
Okay. I've heard it phrased differently than that, exactly.
Sure, it started differently.
I thought you were about to take me down a place I didn't need to be.
100 men versus I almost said glorilla, a gorilla.
I think 100 men could take out Glorilla for sure.
Oh, I don't know. She stepped into it. She said
I know she's been working out.
It.
I understand she's been working out.
I'm not sure.
But I do not know the answer to that question, although it feels like 100 men, 100 almost anything could take out almost one of anything.
You would think that, but I think we're really vastly underestimating the power of a gorilla.
Well, I don't want to do that. That's not the way I want to spend my Monday.
Next thing you know, you're a part of 100 men signing up to take on the gorilla, and you're dead.
Yeah, I would be. I'd want to be on the back end of that. You know, I'd be.
Well, you don't get to choose.
I'd want to be fighter like 89.
Okay.
93. You know.
But you're all there together.
Wait. This is where I'm getting confused on this topic. Are we jumping the gorilla? Or are we going one at a time?
You can't go one at a time. That's you'll just lose one at a time.
We're jumping the gorilla.
I think you got it. The way
and you don't have weapons is my understanding of the situation.
I've read about this more than I should.
I woke up to 20 direct messages from my husband with tweets about men versus gorilla.
I saw one gentleman suggest that if everybody were committed to the cause from the jump, then you can get it done. But you can't have people like me involved.
You can't have people like you saying, I'm fighter 87.
Yeah, I'd be like, yeah, let's go. And then I'd sit back a little bit.
That doesn't work. You would have to be an all attack. And you know you're going to lose a couple.
You got to. This is the way you got to go in.
You're going to lose a couple of you.
There's 100 of us.
Okay.
We know between 100 of us, if we all go at this like we're Alex Caruso, all right? We can handle this gorilla.
Yes.
But if there's too many of us that aren't in it all the way, then we just go get picked off one at a time.
I could make a really mean basketball reference right now. If you attack it like the defense of the Oklahoma City Thunder, but if you are the Grizzlies for a wide portion of that series, you're probably losing.
You have to say this. We're probably going to lose about 30 of us, all right? 70 of us can make it through.
But can you imagine for the 70 of you to be able to say you did it now?
What an awesome story.
What a glory moment.
Man, I'm still telling stupid stories about silkies from like the late 90s, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if I had a
But what if that gorilla had all the power of the lost gorillas before? Like Harambe, the spirit of Harambe is in there.
Works.
And I don't know. I can't
speak to that.
I think as men, we vastly underestimate, and a woman viewing men, sometimes we underestimate the power of a wild animal.
I don't underestimate. That's why I don't get around them.
I mean, I would, but this is why I would rather run into a bear in the woods than a man. Because you men are crazy.
In the woods, you'd rather see a bear than me.
Yes. Yes.
What?
Yes. I mean, I know you, Gary, so I would be fine running. But if I didn't know you, you're scary. You lurk. We talk about this all the time. You lurk through the Grind City Media. If you lurked from out behind a tree, I'd be convinced you were trying to kill me.
I'm a pacer by nature. I notice this sometimes at the youth baseball games. I don't sit still very often. I get up and I never stand still. So if I'm standing, I'm moving. And I'm constantly moving around. And I see these people every once in a while, they just look at me because I'm just sort of like walking around their. It's like they have their chairs lined up, and I've created a maze in them, and I'll walk around them, and I see them every once in a while. They're like looking at me, like, do you want?" And I'm like, "No, I just move around. I'm just moving. I'm not trying to
creep you out.
I'm not trying to be weird. I'm not trying to obstruct your view. I need to move around. I'm constantly moving. It's a big problem in television studios because the stage director is like, on your spot. Stay on your spot. Can you stay on your spot? And I'm like, I'll walk right out of a shot all the time. Anyway.
I do love that my chart is me, would I rather run into a man or a bear in the woods? Definitely a bear. And yet, do I think 100 men could challenge and win against a gorilla? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So that circle doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But you know what?
But men can be rough sometimes. I agree with that.
They sure can.
Yeah.
Hey.
I've seen enough videos.
The Memphis Grizzlies season came to an end over the weekend
I heard.
with a 4-0 sweep. They brought out the brooms in FedEx Forum.
Yeah.
The Thunder fans were down celebrating. It didn't feel particularly good. The end of the season, the end of the regular season didn't feel good. The Grizzlies beat one above 500 team in their last 20 tries to end the season. 1-19. That's not a good place to be. Drew Hill, the beat writer over at the Daily Memphian, put out a question that I found interesting where he said, what everyone's last image of the season will be. Like, what's the lasting image of this season for the Grizzlies? Is there one that jumps out to you?
The other team scoring.
Okay.
Just opponents scoring.
In large bunches?
Yeah, like a lot.
Like a flurry of another team.
Like 75 points and a half type stuff.
Yeah.
No, like Ja lying there. I really did think that was a perfect moment to symbolize like sort of what we've been dealing with as a franchise. Because in that moment, if you pause it, and obviously I'm talking about the end of the second quarter, game 3. If you pause it in that moment, this is what's about to happen. We all hit pause and we go, okay, what's about to happen? You go, oh, wow. Ja's about to put this dude on a poster. They're about to be up 29 points. And the roof's about to come off this place. They're going to close this out. Game 4 on Saturday. Subsequently, John Morant said he had figured some things out. In fact, like more specifically, figured them out. What if he had? Now, I mean, we are Friday talking about different stuff. Perhaps right now having totally different conversations. Perhaps right now getting ready for a Game 5. Series tied 2-2. Let's go. And just as soon as you could wrap your head around all that, he's lying on the ground and his season's over. Like you couldn't even enjoy what was about to be, on some level, the high point of the season. A dunk, poster, viral moment, 29-point lead over the 1 seed. Maybe they figured something out. Let's go. Just like that, it was, no, he's on the ground. He's done for the season. Here we go again. To me, that's the moment.
Yeah.
That's the moment that doesn't just encapsulate the season. It encapsulates
the era.
It encapsulates the era.
Yeah.
It encapsulates the Ja Morant era of the Grizzlies. Incredible highs, like moments that make you believe, oh, this really can be everything we imagine.
Over Lou Dort,
Right.
and presumably the Grizzlies do not let go of at that point, 29-point lead.
Just him being on the court means they don't blow that, in part because at some point Oklahoma City pulls the
their
plug.
books, right.
Yeah.
And then we're talking about Ja and the heroics of Ja.
Yeah.
And like I was thinking back on this season, like this was the season where he landed that insane dunk that didn't count on Victor Wembanyama. This was the season of the game winner against the Miami Heat, the call 12 moments. Like there is such a different world. And as a staunch Ja Morant defender in this NBA universe, like those are the things that I always would prefer to be talking about, and instead we're talking about a Grizzlies core that has one playoff series win over the last 5 years, and that's unacceptable. Like when you are a sports franchise and the goal is to win and to win more than you have in years past and to show growth. This hasn't shown growth. You're an 8 seed, you lose to the 1 seed. The fact that you're even in the 8-1 matchup to begin with when you were sitting in the 2 seed back in February speaks for itself. And you make a coaching change. Now the question is that coaching change the future of the coaching change, or will there be a new coach who comes into this organization? Is this the end of the core 3? Does somebody get moved this offseason? What happens to the surrounding pieces? Like, there's just so much uncertainty at this point. The only thing that's certain is that you can't run it back.
And they won't. I think the biggest question is, first off, what do you do at head coach? And it seems like I know where that's going.
I agree. That was my takeaway from Sunday.
Here's the thing. This guy, because I had people, that's another thing, walking around a youth baseball complex, you end up in a lot of these conversations. So you get hours between games sometimes. And like, there's no getting around the fact that Tuomas Iisalo is a brilliant basketball mind. Talk to anybody who's ever talked to him. Talk to anybody who's ever been around him. That's the way they'll describe him. He's a brilliant basketball mind. All right? He's also an accomplished basketball coach. Like, he won significant stuff in Paris. Like, he's won things as a basketball coach. So he's a brilliant basketball mind, and he's been a successful basketball coach. That's all true. The next question is, okay, but can he be an effective, impactful, successful coach in the NBA with this core? Does the front office believe that? Does Zach believe that? I think he probably does. Then I do think it's important to know what John, Jaren, and Dez, at least John, Jaren, not to separate the three, but we'll get there in a second. Mm-hmm. I do want to know what they think about him. Do they respect him? Will they listen to him? Will they respond to him? I want to be clear. If I don't believe in the guy and they do, then that doesn't move me. Because if I don't believe in somebody, it's a non-starter. Mm-hmm. And maybe this is a situation where I believed in somebody when I hired them, but don't believe in them anymore. We've probably all worked with people like that. You go, okay, I understand why this person was hired. Then you're around them for a year and a half, and you're like, but I don't know why they're still here. So, like, Zach needs to believe in Iisalo as the full-time coach. But if he does and they do, I suspect that's where this is probably going, which is fine with me. I don't think this is speaking out of both sides of my mouth. He could be the perfect hire moving forward for this franchise. Do I think he showed that taking over for Taylor Jenkins? Like, showed it in tangible ways. Right. I'm not behind the scenes. I'm not in the locker room. But of the stuff we could see, did he inspire confidence? No. The results are the results. Although I do think on some level, like you pointed out, he was set up to, like, it was a hard job. You know, lots of games, no practice. The schedule gets harder. You lose multiple rotation players, then John Morant as well.
Your defense was already falling off a cliff.
It was a mess. It's possible you could have given that to Rick Carlisle and he'd have struggled with it. You could have given that to Eric Spoelstra and he would struggle with it. So I'm open-minded about all of it. I think these things are true. I understand why he was brought here. I understand why they wanted to make him the interim. I mean, the full-time coach in theory, I don't think he had a lot of great moments as the interim, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't be good going forward. I'm open-minded about it, and I think that's probably where it's headed. As for the core 3, I think you can sometimes listen to what people say, listen to what they don't say, and then draw some conclusions from it. So Zach was very intentional and specific about Ja. I told you at the trade deadline we're not trading him. I'm telling you now we're not trading him. Going forward, he's the heart and the leader of this thing.
And also saying that him and Ja are in the healthiest place that they've been. That felt noteworthy.
That makes me think John Morant is, I don't want to say untouchable, but that the priority here is not looking to move John Morant. The way Dallas clearly started looking to move Luka Doncic, it doesn't appear that the Grizzlies are doing that with John Morant. So then he was asked about Jaren Jackson Jr. The extension.
High priority.
High priority. Jaren's a high priority. Jaren's next contract with this franchise is a priority. Mm-hmm. Okay. So John Morant's the heart and the leader going forward. Jaren's extension with this franchise is a high priority. Okay. What about the core 3? We sticking together? I know it wasn't put exactly like that, but he never said that. Never confirmed that, never sat there. In fact, instead kept saying things like, what we're doing is not good enough. What we've been hasn't been good enough. We can love our core. He didn't say these. I'm paraphrasing here. Yeah. But good, not good enough, not good enough, not good enough was said as much as any phrase ever. Any other phrase said. So when asked about Desmond Bane,
unintentionally got younger was said over and over. Yeah. Not close and not good enough was said multiple times. And vis-a-vis was said 4 times.
Right. So
the vis-a-vis counter was
so
real.
We're not good enough. What we're doing is not enough.
Yes.
It hasn't been what we imagined or what we want or what we require. Okay, so what are you going to do? Ja's the leader in the heart going forward. Okay, Jaren. Well, his new extension, that's a priority. Okay, Des. He had an under-the-radar fantastic season.
And healthy season.
Yeah, there was no commitment to Desmond Bain.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that...
It also got lost in... It was one of those things, watching it in real time, because I was here sitting. And so at first it strikes me that a tangent happens in the middle of that, where there were a lot of things that he wanted to make sure that he said in regards to the unintentionally getting younger, Jalen Wells essentially beating out a vet in an unnamed Marcus Smart in that comment, but that felt like an important piece of the message that he wanted to get out. And then Jaren and Des were both added at the end. Like there was so much Ja, right? So I was the same with you. That seemed crystal clear. Like the relationship with Ja Morant is of infinite importance to this organization, to Zach Kleiman, and where they sit right now. The Jaren thing gets brought back up again because he has to be asked about his extension. And so that's where there's an opportunity to provide the highest priority and to give some extra dressing to the commitment to Jaren. I just wondered if the Des thing just got trailed off. And I know, and it could be, but you could also be right too. This is what we do when we sit and listen to these exit interviews, and there was never a follow-up as it pertained to Desmond Bain.
Yeah, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. I know. I'm not putting words in my mouth. I'm merely focusing on the words that were said.
Yes.
Zach's a smart guy.
Yes.
He went in there with things he wanted to say.
Right.
If he wanted to say the core three, we feel good about that.
That would have been a line that was also repeated.
Of course, we got our three guys. We know who they are. We have done a poor job of supplementing them and building around them, and that's what we have to address this offseason. He could have said that if he wanted to.
Yeah.
He quite clearly never got close to that. So then you start talking about the core three. This is just... Never would say we're going to keep the core three together, which I'm fine with, by the way, not saying that. But then did say Ja Morant's the leader going forward and the heart going forward, and Jaren's new contract is a priority. Well, then what does that tell you?
Well, and I also thought that the most perhaps important thing that was said in regards to that was when he said that this team is not just one veteran wing defender away from being a contender, because that would be the assumption of, okay, the core three is here. Is there some workability, contract-wise, cap space-wise, where we get a solid veteran wing defender who changes the entire trajectory of this team? Now, I will argue, I think it changes a lot. Like, I do think it changes a significant amount for this team's potential. I'm looking around the league and I'm like, God, could we just get anyone who can rebound, an additional ball handler, someone who can defend? Like that was the majority of this team's, not the majority, but that was a highlighted problem for the team this season, was not having that.
Yeah, listen, he made it clear they don't believe anymore that they're just a piece away. Now, there were people on...
Like Dorian Finney-Smith's not walking in this building and there's a different outcome.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people... I think it would be difficult to act like you're just a piece away when you're 9-18 in playoff games with this core.
Yes.
When you are 1-4 in playoff series with this core. So again, not to belabor the point, but I do think this is important in case it's getting mixed up. You said Ja Morant's a part of the future, and you said Jaren Jackson Jr.'s future with the Grizzlies is a priority. So the only thing preventing you from saying the core three is a part of the future is just committing to the Desmond Bain part of it, and he didn't do that.
Yeah.
Perhaps it just slipped his mind. Okay? Sometimes I'm talking, things slip my mind. Perhaps it just slipped my mind, and it slipped his mind. And let me be clear, just because you're open to the idea of moving off of Desmond Bain doesn't mean that you will or you should. It just means that what I took from that is if you are an NBA franchise who is interested in a Desmond Bain, they'll take your call. Yeah. They'll take your call and listen to something. There was a point where I bet you the front office was like, we know we have these three guys. We just got to get good around them, and that's the thing. And I don't think they believe that anymore. Yeah. And I'm not sure that they should. In fact, there's very little evidence to suggest that they should.
But I will throw one more piece in it because of how... Even if it was unintentional, it was a reality. You had those three, and when this roster was fully healthy, it was those three and two rookies starting. And it is very difficult to make a significant run in the playoffs when you were starting two rookies.
Yeah, we lied to ourselves throughout the season. Yes. I lied to myself.
This is going to be different. I lied to myself when I booked a trip to Antigua everyone keeps saying, oh, when are you going on 1, 2, 3 Cancun? When's your Cancun? Not until the last week of June. Because I did genuinely believe that there is a world where this team was playing at least into the Western Conference Finals and possibly with an opportunity. So I lied to myself too. I
got caught up in the early look at the record.
Yep.
They're second in the West. I I don't know if it's ideal to start 2 rookies in the playoffs, but it's a good basketball team. They're second in the West. We'll see where it goes. But there were no shortage of people telling you that's not going to work. You can't have Jalen Wells out there trying to guard the best wings in the world as a rookie. It's awesome that he is over. He's outperformed all reasonable expectations, but this ain't that.
And Zach Edey outperformed my expectations. I thought
I think it's true that both rookies wildly outperformed expectations, or at least Jalen wildly. Zach, perhaps, whatever.
Jalen, I mean, as Zach Kleiman said, he expected Jalen to be in the G League at the start of the season, not starting.
I host the College Basketball Podcast 3 episodes a week during the season, 5-month season. I don't think I said Jalen Wells' name one time ever until he was drafted by the Memphis Grizzlies. So both things can be true. Both rookies were great relative to expectations, or really good relative to expectations. You probably don't need to be starting them, if you're trying to actually accomplish real stuff in the playoffs.
And their ultimate development, too. I mean, those are 2 rookies who, according to yesterday, have plans to play in Summer League.
Yeah.
That's a part of the developmental process.
Yeah.
You also have one other thing that we haven't mentioned was Zach Kleiman, admitting that he probably overbelieved in Vince Williams and G.G. Jackson coming off a season where there was a lot of meaningless basketball played in this building because it was a lost season due to injuries. Both of them outperformed their expectations that year, and then coming off of injuries, could not find their way into the rotation. Yes, we saw Vince Williams at the end of that game, but if you're still sitting out there...
He had some moments in Game 4 that could make you want to grab it and hold it.
But again, it was a meaningless basketball game.
Right.
You're down 3-0, you're down your star point guard, half the building is empty. There wasn't a lot of belief in the Grizzlies team at that point. But he did make a couple threes, which I thought were good. And then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just did what SGA does against many good defenders, but there wasn't anything. And Vince said he's 80%. He went down, I think. I meant to go check that. I think when he came back from his injury, he said he was 85%. And at exit interviews, he said he was 80%. So we've decreased further. But it was a gnarly ankle injury that he was dealing with. But all of those things collectively, this is a very multifaceted reason of why this team is sitting at home as the first team eliminated from postseason contention and now has what will be viewed as one of the more interesting off seasons in the NBA.
I think the biggest failure and the biggest reason we're having these conversations today as opposed to next week or just later in the week is because of the approach to the regular season. They just de-emphasized the regular season, didn't prioritize winning or playing your starters meaningful minutes to try to win these games, and it ended up costing them. You wouldn't even be having to play Shai Gilgeous-Alexander yet if you just took the regular season more seriously. That's an approach problem, and I guarantee, I can't guarantee anything. I would be shocked if that approach isn't changed dramatically next season. They're going to try to win games on a Tuesday night in November. That's the main reason you ended up here. But beyond that, the roster's not good enough. Injuries ripped away any reasonable hope. And the biggest one, Ja is laying there on the court in Game 3 and in streak closing Game 4. It's not his fault. I thought he was smart talking about it yesterday. What do you want me to do? He didn't say this, but it was okay, a ball got thrown at my foot one time. I landed on another guy's foot another time. I thought that was important. And I got clipped in the air twice. How am I supposed...
someone set a horrible illegal screen on me and took my shoulder out.
Right. He's like,
they were freak injuries because that becomes that is one of the many narratives around Ja, and there is a fairness. He's not on the court at the end of the season. That is a fact. But when you look at the injuries from this year, it's not that he was putting himself in vulnerable positions. He was.
Except some people will say that he does still put himself in vulnerable positions. Okay, so.
But I disagree with that.
This brings me back to my Jacob deGrom story. I dealt with this with my baseball team that I care about. When he pitched, when he was healthy, he was literally the best pitcher in the world, one of the best of all time. Just barely pitched. He was always unavailable to pitch. And what you would say on some level is, he's just unlucky. Poor Jacob deGrom, my God. And you know what baseball people tell you? No, it's not unlucky. He's trying to throw 102 every pitch. And there's no track record of men throwing a ball that hard and staying healthy. He needs to take his foot off the gas a little bit, and that's how you stay healthy. So it's not just unlucky. He is pushing his arm to a place it doesn't need to go. History tells us it can't go there. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but this was the debate. There are other people who will say about John Morant, it's not just unlucky. He does put himself in positions often where at 175 pounds, if he gets bumped, bad things are going to happen. Don't put yourself in that position too often. For me, I don't like telling John Morant not to jump and do awesome stuff in the air.
It's telling him not to be himself.
Right. So I don't.
And like that's my take with, and I know CJ got into it earlier, but even with how he answered that question, like that's Ja. Like I don't want.
Yeah, but
I'm
he
never.
shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
I mean,
So you're on the side that he shouldn't have said it.
Well, I mean, I know he shouldn't have said it. The question is going to be like, can he deal with what comes with it?
I think we'll find out.
When has he ever
What
dealt with what's
that
coming
sounds like to me?
after? When has he ever dealt with what comes next well?
My ultimate thing, and this is just how I stand on it. I appreciate when players aren't robots. And I remember I even going into yesterday's media availability, like I questioned, and it was a dumb question, but it's just something that went through my brain. With Ja's injury, would he come to yesterday's media availability? Because I think sometimes there have been arrangements made for players when they're hurt, and he crutches his way in there, and he can't sit in the chair that's given to him to sit. They need to get a stool because he's too uncomfortable. He's obviously doesn't feel great. And then he's hunched over. And so people immediately jump on like, oh, that looks like bad body language. And I'm like, no, that was just the circumstances of somebody who came in on crutches. There's no ramp. He's having to figure out how to get up the stairs. I learned this when I had my stupid Achilles tear. These places aren't ADA compliant. For being a basketball arena where there are a lot of like lower leg injuries happen or anything, not a lot of ramps in any space. All that to say, I texted Chris, my husband at the time, and I was like, he's here. It's good to hear from him. Like some of his early answers I thought were just like really poised, had a maturity around it if you want to use that word. And then he did that, and I was like, and he's still himself, and he's still crazy.
Well, like, here's the thing. Like, and I'm not piling on. I don't really care. Like, I didn't tweet about it.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't quote tweet
I
it.
didn't either.
I don't really care.
I don't want to. I can't get into any more internet fights this week.
But here's the thing that I think he would benefit from realizing is that even if you believe that like sincerely, and I think he probably does.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm certain he does, that he had figured out the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah.
Even if you believe that at your core, and I think he does, which I can appreciate on some level. I like the mindset. But broadly speaking, people get tired of hearing people talk about all these things they're going to do that they never actually do. So I'm fine in the West, and then you're 1-4 in playoff series in the West. Like, and then it's, I had figured them out. Oh, you'd figured them out. Of course you had. Of course you had 9 and 18 in playoff games since you three have been together in this franchise. But sure.
And the Thunder have beaten you. He hasn't been in every game, but I saw somebody, one of the Thunder beat reporters was like, you've lost 11 straight games to the Thunder at this point. Like, it took a long time.
Like, it's just that kind of stuff. You know what it reminds me of? And we've all know this guy, and on some level, we've all been this guy. Like in golf. It's like you talk to your buddy you play golf with.
Yeah.
So how'd you play? I mean, I played okay. Man, 81, but it should have been a 76. It should have been a 76. Yeah. Like, I play with you every Sunday morning. I've never seen you shoot 76, but today it should have been a 76. He's always talking to you about how he should have had a 76.
Right.
But it's always an 86. It's never actually a 76. But every time you talk to him, he's telling you about how he almost had a 76 or he was going to get a 76 if it was just for this one thing. But, like, to this day, if you're like, show me the 76, I can't show it to you. You figured Oklahoma City out, finally. Okay. But, like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, just people don't want to hear it. People don't want to hear it. People don't like to hear people.
I just don't mind hearing it. I know some people don't, and some
I
people
don't
do,
mind
and that's the middle
I'm
of
just
the
saying,
ground.
if you want to know why collectively people read that and roll their eyes, it's because people don't want to hear, you've been telling us for years about all the stuff you got figured out. And it never results in anything. And it doesn't mean that it won't. It just means that it hasn't. And if I were advising him, like as a friend, I'd say, let's stop talking about what we're going to do.
I'm sure somebody did, and he sat there and he thought about it for a second. And that's where I appreciate just the trueness of a person coming in. The thought process and the laugh and the, I shouldn't say this. And then the sitting in it and then saying it anyway. Like, I don't know. For me, it's endearing. I understand the other side, but it's the duality of a person, and we're all just trying to get through this life, and that's that. Yes, CJ,
hey,
please don't yell at me again.
With that duality, does it equate to winning? Because that's all that matters. So he can have duality. He can be a real personable person, but if he's a loser doing that stuff, he's just a loser, and we can't keep allowing
I think
that.
that's a little harsh.
Yeah.
I think that's... Well, there's a difference between being uncomfortable and having constructive conversations and
yeah,
being
but like
absurd.
I do like yeah, I would stop short of word loser.
Yeah.
But like the anger and frustration that you hear in CJ's voice, that's not unique to CJ.
I know there are
Grizzlies
he speaks
fans.
for people.
I have friends like
he speaks for some
I have
people.
friends who love the Grizzlies who are tired of this.
Yeah.
And you saw the building the other day. Like that tells you something. You know, imagine if you do this every day and you have a pretty good gauge of how many people are here every day, right? Imagine if you looked up next year and it was a quarter of the people.
That'd be sad.
You would start to go, what happened? Why are people not interested in what I'm doing anymore? They used to be here, but they're not interested in what I'm doing anymore. Why is that? That was
okay, but I'm going to and I know we have to break and talk about something else eventually. Half the reason that building is empty is because Ja Morant was ruled out to play in that game.
The building wasn't full in Game 3.
I know. It was not, but it was far worse, and there would have at least been some more bodies.
The majority of NBA franchises, I think, are going to sell out a playoff game.
Oh, I'm with you 100%
just
on
like that.
Nobody wants to hear me anymore.
But for some reason, this city will not. Now,
Yes.
the main reason for that, I think, is it is a small market, poor city. Let's just start right there. It is a small market, impoverished city.
Yes.
That's the main reason. But it was also a small market, impoverished city 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and those playoff games looked and felt different.
Other cities don't have this problem. And I get that Memphis is unique in the constraints that you just mentioned, but more people are in the building in playoff games.
Yes,
if for example, and it's not a fair, making these comparisons is never an apples and oranges. Like I tried to tell someone in the chat, the Miami Heat are on the verge of being swept by the Cleveland Cavaliers, and their fans showed up. And of course there's Heat culture and history and championships and all that, but like there's not a lot to be hopeful for in that sense.
Right.
And fans will still come and say goodbye to the team of what this season was. It's Miami, but you could say there's a million other things you could do in Miami, Florida, than the few things you could have done this past weekend in FedEx Forum.
I've just been doing this long enough to know you can try to compel fans to go, but you can't guilt trip them into it.
No. That is a fact.
You can't tell them they should or they owe some civic
and
duty.
me sitting here today, like doing metaphorical finger wagging doesn't help either.
No.
And it just makes people angry, and I get that.
It is not, I appreciate the effort.
Yeah,
I'm
but
sure
it
our
doesn't
bosses
change
do
anything.
too, but it is not your job to get people to come into that building. It's Ja Morant's job. It's Desmond Bane's job. It's Jaren Jackson's job. Like they have to, when I take my family to something, it's not because I feel guilt tripped into doing it.
It's because I want to go
Unless
and
it's the
spend my money
Minecraft
and
movie.
spend my
Maybe the
afternoon
Minecraft
there.
movie, I'd be guilt tripped into that. But when I take my kids to, let's say I took my family to Memphis SMU game day football a few years ago. I always go back to that one only because I don't go to a lot of Memphis football games. I don't, we're usually doing other things. But I wanted them to be there. I wanted them to feel that. I was compelled to take my family. Not because Mike Norvell texted me and was like, GP, we need you there. Nobody said we need you there. Please come out. You need to spend your money here. I just was like, this is an awesome thing that's happening in the city. I want my family to experience that. I want to experience that. Let's go do it. We need to get back to that here. We don't need to shame people for not coming downtown on a Saturday afternoon. You need to start figuring out, why do people not want to come downtown on a Saturday afternoon? And if the answer there is Ja Morant's in street clothes and crutches, then let's talk about Thursday night then.
GP, thanks for joining us on this Monday. The Gary Parrish Show, weekday mornings, 10 a.m. on Grind City Media. We'll take a break, come back, talk about the other NBA playoff action from the weekend, a little Hot Mess Express 2 when we come back.
Bane drives. Oh, yeah. Close. He hits and the Grizzlies have the lead. Yeah! Jaren with a knockaway. Good defense. Durant attacking, spinning, hanging, and hitting. Let's go!
Shinedown. Dance Kid Dance Tour. Live in Memphis. FedEx Forum, Saturday, August 30th. With special guests, Bush and Morgan Wade. Get tickets now at livenation.com. Shinedown, live in concert. For more, visit shinedown.com.
The new issue of Slam, the cover dropped, and it is our friend Jaren Jackson Jr. on the cover.
And shout out to you, Lane.
Yeah.
You kept. Well, I mean, we knew about it, but you kept this a secret the whole time. So shout out to you. For
I wrote this story.
together.
We did the photo shoot a couple weeks ago here on a Sunday afternoon in the practice court. The Sneak Fest show, live Tuesdays at 2 p.m. on Grind City Media on X, YouTube, and the official Grind City Media mobile app.
All you American wrestling fans out there, watching this international road to WrestleMania should be a wake-up call. Turn up at these shows. Stop being so spoiled, because Cody Rhodes, Cody Rhodes, Cody Rhodes,
I love it.
Cody Rhodes.
Let's go, Cena. Cena sucks.
Yeah.
I'm wagging my finger because you're telling those people that they need to do better.
Yeah.
Tune in to Grind City Wrestling weekly on the Grind City Media app and on the Grind City Media YouTube channel.
Debo traded from San Francisco to the Commanders for a 5th-round pick. There's no other sport where you would get a player of his ilk for a 5th-round pick.
Over under total yards for Debo. If they set it at 1,000, you think he hits that over?
Total yards?
Total yards from scrimmage. Total yards.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The Odds Couple, live at 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
We touched on this earlier, the panel here, about what really has been the mainstay of the Grizzlies, and that's Jaren Jackson Jr. Trip has just been awesome.
He's posting guys up. He's stronger than he's ever been. He's physical, and he's scoring all type of ways.
Hey, Grizzlies fans, be sure to tune in to Grizzbeat, where the panel and I break down all things Grizzlies and take a look at the rest of the NBA as well. The show is live every Wednesday, 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
All right, so the Grizzlies are out of the playoffs, but the other NBA playoff action from this weekend was absolutely awesome, and it did give me a heavy dose of FOMO because this time of year is so fun, and things ended so sadly for the Grizzlies, and I just want to be a part of it. I just want to be a part of the fun, CJ.
You can watch.
I know, and I had a great time. I had a grand time watching all the games yesterday, and then it was such a bummer. Like, before we get into the greatness of it, and shout out to your father, big day, big night for your father.
Oh, he couldn't wait to text me this morning. He says, CJ, LOL, dang.
Your dad
You can't win with him.
If you want any reason why CJ is the way he is, look no further.
An exceptional
than his
human
father,
being, a truth teller.
who said LOL after a man joined the worst Facebook group to ever exist,
Boy,
the Achilles
look at how he's
Warriors.
sitting there,
And
man.
this moment after he does it
Giannis,
made
what are
me
you doing? Just
so
leave him.
sad. So
Was that
sad.
Giannis or Kuzma?
That's Kuzma.
Of course it was
That's Kuzma.
Like, why are you
Nobody
pulling
else
him off the
came
court?
over and helped him off the court. Watching Damian Lillard sit by himself and having to wait multiple seconds before a single one of his teammates comes over to help him get up so that he can be taken off the court was heart-wrenching to watch. The Bucks are also in hell because they have no future. And Damian, you could at least kind of convince yourself. It's one of those things similarly to the Grizzlies. Like, let's say they had made a run and they make it a 2-2 series, and you could suddenly start having inappropriate and unproductive conversations of, well, maybe they're not as far away as they actually looked. The Bucks are just far away and have no hope. Like, they have no picks for, I think, the next 6 years. They don't have any young players that you can hang around, and now the status of Giannis Antetokounmpo, and if he's going to want out of Milwaukee, will be probably the biggest off-season movement topic in the NBA.
If you were the Bucks, would you want him out of Milwaukee? Because you got nothing.
You already had nothing. Like, watching this series with the Pacers, a lot of things exposed. Like, you have Giannis, and Giannis willed you to one game, but the rest of it feels pretty darn over.
So if you were the Bucks, would you want Giannis out? Would you be open?
Over.
Would you be open to saying, okay, let's
you
go ahead
have to, and you
get
say, at
everything
least we got a
can?
championship. That's the
You
golden
did
goose.
get
You got one.
You got
one with him. But
you retire his
everything
jersey
since
someday. Giannis gets a statue. Giannis gets a statue.
Yeah.
Giannis gets a statue.
And it'll be a great statue.
Yeah, man. Get that freak statue up.
The Greeks, they made us statues to begin with.
Damn
so
right.
here we are once again. But it was such a I did not find anything laughing about Damian Lillard going down with an Achilles tear because you have him in a situation where he came back from that blood clot and you're already questioning should Damian Lillard be playing. And there's no connectivity between a blood clot and tearing your Achilles outside of like inactivity. He's 35 years old. And so your body, when it's not in its typical training regimen or just anything off, it's such a freak injury. It is the most random, horrific thing to happen to a lower leg. But it happened to him, and now he's 35 years old, and you have to think that we have seen the end of Damian Lillard as an effective basketball player. And ever since he's left Portland, it has been nothing but misery and woe.
Sad. But you got to go out. It ends for everybody at some point.
It does.
So, hey, go ahead. Thoughts and prayers to Dame as he goes, starts this journey, man. Good luck to him. He's a fierce competitor. When he was in his prime, one of the best players in the league, gave us a bunch of, he's one of the reasons why the NBA playoffs was so much fun in the 2010s was because you knew Dame Lillard was going to go out there and give his all. And if he had to grab teammates by the scruff of their neck and drag them through games, damn it, that's what Dame was going to do. Tremendous competitor, tremendous basketball player. But the end comes for us all someday. And it feels like this is the end, like you said, of Dame being a productive basketball player. So
outside of that and outside of the Grizzlies, I mean, the Grizzlies game was actually quite good. But all of the other games this weekend, it was like banger after banger after banger after banger. I do not have to ask you your favorite game. You have already alluded to nothing will. The look in your eyes when I even start flirting with the notion of bringing up Pistons Knicks is...
If Pistons Knicks,
it's everything for you.
If we made a person out of Pistons Knicks, I might divorce my wife and marry that person.
We're not supposed to do spirit. It's culturally appropriation to do spirit animals. But if there was like a spirit series, I'm saying this with love and thought and care, that's the CJ series. That series embodies you.
Just give it to me.
So much.
So many
That
times.
was not my favorite game of the week, although it was tremendous. I enjoyed the game.
Pistons, so many turnovers to start that game. You're not going to just blow by it.
We're here at exit interviews and we're like, oh, the Pistons are down 20, and you know what?
Did they get down 20?
No, but it felt like they were down 20, whatever
all
it was.
Those turnovers to start the midway through the second quarter, they had more turnovers than made buckets, and it's a 10 to 12, 14 point game.
It was a double-digit point game at that point, but you're just thinking like, they're just happy to be here. No.
Watching that game, nobody's happy.
No, they want it.
Nobody's happy.
Cade wants it. That whole team wants it.
The winning team is unhappy. They are violent out there.
Karl Anthony Towns was awesome in that game.
Yeah.
He hit some massive
Karl Anthony Towns is doing his damnness to shed soft.
Yes.
And he has done so.
Trying.
He is doing that well in this series. The Pistons, unfortunately, are young in key places, and the Grizzlies can sort of relate to this. But Thompson is almost unplayable now. He won't contest. He's so concerned about fouling Jalen Brunson because Jalen Brunson can bait him into fouls. He's contesting with his arms down. He is more athletic than Brunson. He's playing terrific defense on Brunson. It's just after Brunson picks up that ball, there's no contesting. Jalen Brunson, way too good a player to miss those types of shots. There was a potential scuffle that could have and maybe should have popped off that Cade Cunningham stepped in and squashed immediately. No. Karl Anthony Towns on the ground, grabs a Pistons player leg, one of their rookies, I forget the dude's name, grabbed his leg, and dude turned around like, yo, what are we doing here? That's reckless, and it is reckless. How that's not a flagrant, I don't know. Cade comes through and shoves him out the way. Like, no, we are not going to feed into this. They're trying to get up here in our heads. We are not letting that happen. My wife would also like everybody to know her exact words. You be quoting me so much. Sometimes you be making it seem like Well,
she sounds like Chris.
You tell the people that I said that was a foul on Tim Hardaway Jr. and he should have been shooting 3 free throws.
And it was.
That's what she says. So I got that out of the way.
That's also what the pool report said. It's what everybody says. Listen, this is unpopular. As a rule follower, I didn't care that they didn't call it. Like, they played so physical that whole game. I hate when but they should have. They absolutely should have. But I'm just sitting here saying, I wasn't steaming. And I wanted the Pistons to win that game. I was fully rooting for the Pistons at that point because that arena was going to pop off, and it looked so fun. But that was not my favorite game. My favorite game was the Timberwolves-Lakers game, which was the game following that game yesterday afternoon. And to watch Anthony Edwards, the superstar ascending, and he just keeps collecting greats and knocking them off. And last year it was Kevin Durant, and they are now one win away from him doing it to LeBron James and Luka Doncic. And the game Sunday was crazy because at some point he takes a spill and it looks like he might be hurt. And you're like, oh no, this could significantly impact the Timberwolves' chance in not just winning this game, but winning this series. And you come back from commercial break and he is smiling like an absolute maniac. And he proceeds to put together a 43-point masterpiece. He has been the best player in the series, and it is not just about him as a scorer. It is about every component of his game. He's been so good on defense. He has been so impressive on defense. That whole Timberwolves team defensively is just gnarly. It's a bad matchup for the Lakers, and the Lakers tried to pour everything into that game. Their starters did not sit a single minute of the second half. That is the first time we have ever seen that in an NBA playoff game. I think in an NBA game, period, where not a single substitution was made, and they were gassed by the end. And the fact that you're doing that with a lineup that includes 40-year-old LeBron James, one, we love science, we love medicine. That's an incredible feat for a 40-year-old to be doing. But he was tired at the end. He didn't score in the fourth quarter. He's going to get credit for the block, which was awesome. Like, he still has these moments. I'm not by any means saying LeBron James is the reason that they lost that game, but he didn't score in the fourth quarter. I thought Reeves, that shot at the end, it was a good look. You have to make it. That's a result of being tired. Luka looked absolutely exhausted. And one, that's like a piece of his career and who he is, like conditioning and getting to the end of games, but also he's dealing with a stomach bug. Like, you played a 40-year-old and someone who's been dealing with a stomach bug and puking all day, according to reports, and you're like, play that entire second half. And they were almost there. They almost got it. But this inclination that the Lakers were going to be so good with LeBron and Luka as finishers that as long as you were in a close game, that's what they were going to ride on. Who cares if you don't have a center? You have those two of the best finishers, best closers to ever do it. And they were right there, and they couldn't do it.
They got to get a center. I wonder if anybody in the league could offer somebody for some interesting pieces. Got to just find a big somehow, some way. And I'm sure that they know this and they'll be on the lookout. And that's a team that doesn't mind going into to either apron. When you're the Lakers, going into the apron, like the apron, both the first and the second apron were created for teams like that who don't mind. And if there's a team out there with centers or big pieces that might be available, I wonder if they'll reach out to the Lakers and Lakers reach out to them and try and get something done. Because that's kind of the difference in this series. There's no rim protection, and Julius Randle is feasting down low. And what does that do? That means you have to collapse in when he gets the ball from the perimeter and then swing, maybe swing, or two swings. It's in Anthony Edwards' hand, and everybody is scrambling, and Anthony Edwards can feast when your defense gets the scrambling like that. So that's 3-1 there. Knicks Pistons 3-1. Bucks and Pacers Bucks is 3-1. Cavs Heat 3-0. So we're moving pretty quickly through this first round. I thought you were going to say your favorite game from the weekend
was Nuggets
was
Clippers.
The one that's 2-2. Because that was an incredible finish.
So the issue with that, not the issue, I was double posting. I was DPing the entirety of Clippers Nuggets. And I got off just in time to see our first ever buzzer beater dunk by Aaron Gordon. Not his first buzzer beater dunk, but like the first ever buzzer beater dunk in the NBA playoffs, where a game was decided at the buzzer by a dunk. And that Aaron Gordon, we'll call it a dunk, a tip, a prayer, a collection of sorts from a missed Nikola Jokic 3-point attempt, which, sure, it was a pass. It was an air ball of a three. And the second by second frame of the Aaron Gordon dunk is such a perfect encapsulation of the incredibleness of time and space and just how things change so quickly. That man's hand was off that ball like the second the red light went off. Like, not a second before, not a nanosecond before, not a nanosecond later, like right as that red light goes off. So it is a game-winning dunk. And my favorite thing was TNT did like a 4-box, or at least that's what I saw on social media, where there was a 4-box of the top 2 boxes are the team's reactions to the review and it being called officially a dunk and the Nuggets win the game. And the bottom 2 boxes are Kawhi Leonard and Nikola Jokic solo shots. And based on the 2 boxes on the bottom, you cannot tell who won the game. You cannot tell who won the game.
That's how I want my stars to be.
Nikola Jokic, stoic.
Stone-faced.
There was a small crack of a smile, but like the instant reaction.
Don't
won
face it.
2-2. It's a great series.
And
it was so funny because as the Grizzlies game was going on, like the Clippers were up, They were up 20 in that game. And the Nuggets came back into it. Nikola Jokic's third quarter was phenomenal. Going back and watching the highlights, I think he had like 16 points and quite a few rebounds in the third quarter. But we were sitting here laughing because everybody was mad that the Grizzlies Thunder game was on national television and Clippers Nuggets had been relegated to NBA TV. And it was like, oh, look at this awesome Grizzlies Thunder game 4. Like Grizzlies are pouring their hearts into it. At least it's a fun game. That blowout over there. And then it turned out being an absolute awesome finish that I'm sure a national audience would have loved to have seen. Listen, it's not a 2-hour show day. That's next Monday. So we don't have time to talk about Shedeur Sanders. I've talked so much about him this weekend.
It can go into
a break. Well, yeah.
WTF.
I'm sure there'll be advancement of the story.
For his
more
sake,
prank calls, more parties, more
funny.
anything. I will say, I just want to be clear. Craziest, like fan-based reactions on the internet. Caitlin Clark stands, but that's now been bumped to number 2. Shedeur Sanders haters are firmly in the number 1 spot. I have received messages over the last 3 days, DMs. One, my favorite DM, I'll just share my favorite. It was like an older gentleman. He said, I'm not sliding in your DMs to be creepy. I'm sliding into your DMs to tell you you don't know anything about football. And I was like, you know what? I appreciate you. That was respectful, yeah. You know, that was a respectful thing. Anyway, we'll also add the Bill Belichick situation to Oops because I could not talk enough about his Sunday morning CBS interview. It was a fun time. We'll have lots of Grizzlies to talk about all week long. Mike Wallace will join us tomorrow. He was also at Exit Interviews. We'll get his takeaways as we continue on through this Grizzlies offseason. More NBA playoff action tonight. Warriors, Rockets, Game 4, and Cavs, Heat. Game 4. We'll see if the Grizzlies aren't the only team to get swept this postseason. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Have a great Monday. Bye.
I appreciate that self-awareness. I want that guy in my foxhole. Like,
Yeah.
I hate you. Not because you're different than me.
Yeah.
No, I just hate you to your core. I don't like you,
You just
as a
suck.
person. You suck.